Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cub Chat Live. We have got Anthony in the house. I'm so excited to be on with you today, Anthony. Thanks for joining.
I know it's been a while. I think I always get stuck with Aaron.
That's how everyone describes it. No, but we appreciate you, Aaron, if you're listening. I hope you're watching. We are so excited for everyone watching. I see that viewer count tick up. Today is an episode you want to tag your fellow volunteers and new leaders in. We're talking about PAC budget planning. We're talking about some, tactical points today. So this is definitely a super useful video if you are a seasoned or new volunteer. Hello, Rob. Hello, PAC 3130 in Greenville. Oh, it's a snowy day there. Thanks for sharing that, Aaron. It is not snowy here in Texas. I'll tell you that. Not at all. So I always love Anthony's shows for many reasons. But one of the things I love is that he always breaks things into steps or acronyms or what have you. And he's done that again for us today. PAC budget planning in just 4 easy steps is how I'm seeing this.
It is. It really is. And the steps aren't that hard, but the common mistake is that people get the steps backwards. And so they do them in the wrong order. And so order is really important when we do our PAC budget planning. And so that's what I want to hit on. There's 4 really simple steps. And we'll flash them up on the screen real quick, and then we'll kind of break them down. Step 1, and this is where most people fail, right? People don't do this as a first step. Step 1 is plan the program you want, right? Not the program you think you can afford, not the program based on history. What do you want, right? And we'll get into details about that. Then you list the expenses, and then you list the income. And that's the other piece that people sometimes flip around. They say, well, how much money do we have? That's how much money we can spend. And when we do budget planning, we actually do it in the reverse order. And then communicate and share. And that's another piece that not only does it get in the wrong place, sometimes it gets skipped completely. And that is disaster for PAC budget planning and your overall PAC finances. So lots of great things that we can hit on each of these points that will help guide you through this process and just make you aware. We do have the annual PAC program planning conference. We've gone over that in a Cub Chat Live. There's position specific training on those topics. We're not going to do a deep dive on that today, but just these 4 really simple, easy steps that I guarantee if you follow these, your PAC will not only grow, you'll also retain your families too.
The director of Cub Scouting just guaranteed something. Take a note. I'm excited to get to step 4. I think some of our audience, along with me, is like, ooh, I'm curious what that looks like, communicating and sharing and what information, is tackled there. So stay tuned. We'll get to that. But we have to start at step 1. We're talking about planning the program you want. This is actually a really fun step too, I think.
It is. It's the most fun step, right? This is actually part of your annual program PAC planning, right? And we used to call a program planning conference, and I really like using the word party, right? This is the event and this is why we're talking about this now in March, right? Some people are like, well, I mean, it's already late. We've already done popcorn, and we've already sold camp cards, and we've already done all of our fundraisers. Why are we talking about this now? Well, because now is the time to start planning your annual PAC program planning party for June or July, right? That the summer months, if you will, because that's where you sit down with parents and leaders and even Cub Scouts, and you talk about what do you want your program year to look like next year, right? This coming program year. What are the things that work well? What are the things you want to repeat? All that good stuff. And then pie in the sky, things to think about when you're doing that. How much money do you budget for your den meeting supplies? Or do you budget anything at all? Right? Really successful PACs budget on a per Cub Scout basis a certain dollar amount for den leaders to be able to spend to buy program supplies, right? If that's not clear or how that happens in your PAC, that's one good way to burn out den leaders and have a hard time getting den leaders to come back or to recruit den leaders. When they feel or are told that they have to fund the program out of their back pocket, that's a real big turnoff, as you can imagine, right? But when you tell them, hey, look, by the way, you get $2 per Cub Scout for every meeting to plan, and you can carry that over if you need to. Oh, okay, great, right? So that really makes it really easy. how much are you going to charge? What are you going to do for your pack meetings and your activities and your campouts? What are you going to do throughout the year? Do you have a pack meeting once a month, or do some pack meetings get replaced with special activities, right? Holiday celebrations, blue and gold, Pinewood Derby, bridging and crossing over ceremonies. What do you do for those things? Do you have money for, is it potluck, or are you going to cater? Are you going to have, what kind of decorations are you going to have? Do you buy Pinewood Derby car kits for all the kids during that holiday celebration? And then last, don't forget, right, adult recognition, right? What do you want to do for adults? Not only just in recognition, but really successful packs will also budget for sending leaders to training. Like they'll cover not only their registration costs, but they'll also send them to training. And so if you've got Baloo or a basic adult leader outdoor orientation or wood badge to pay for that, or hat or something, right? So as you're building that, what does your ideal dream pack look like? That's what that step one is.
I like this. It allows you to dream as big as you want to. I really like that you highlighted adult recognition, because I think, especially maybe for newer volunteers, that's totally not on their radar. So just kind of flagging that as, hey, don't forget about this. This could add up as an expense later on. So, keep it in mind. And when we say these steps are easy, we meant it. Quick shout out to Pack 5092. Troop 38 and Pack 38. Thanks for tuning in. Pack 132. Thank you all for watching. Again, tag a volunteer who you think might get some benefit out of watching today's pack budget planning episode. We're about to move on to step 2. Easy, in that it's the obvious step. So we've come up with all of these activities. Now,
right. So now we've decided, okay, this is what we want our program year to look like. Now we got to do the homework and go back and put a dollar amount to what that would cost. And this is usually where people actually flip it and where the steps get mixed up. They do 3 and they say, well, we only raised $500 last year, so we can only budget for to spend $500. No, that's not how we want to do this, right? That really limits your program and limits your scope. And when we get to step 4, you'll learn that there's a kind of a trick to this. So the question of when you're building that pack budget and you're listing your expenses, one big question you have to ask yourself is the pack going to pay for youth and adult leader membership fees, right? The pack that I was associated with, and I've seen lots of packs do this, you pay, when you sign up, you pay your registration fee once. But if you fundraise or you pay dues, that's where that goes to. So you'll never have to pay your membership fees again, as long as you're doing kind of the minimum expectation of fundraising within the unit. And we'll talk about that when we talk about communication. Advancements, how many advancements are you expecting your kids to earn this year? Not just their badges of rank, but you also want to budget for adventures. And do you allow for families to do adventures at home? And if so, and they report that, how many, do you limit that? Is that unlimited? Right now is the time to start talking about those things, instead of when you're in the heat of the moment and someone asks the question and you never addressed that before. So that's a good one to ask. We talked about den meeting supplies, right? That's a key element, right? Absolutely, by far, the most critical meeting in all the BSA is a weekly den meeting. Absolutely, by far. So we want to make sure that is well funded and that it's fun, it's engaging, and that the den leaders don't feel like they have to either pay out of pocket or they have to scrimp and save or scrounge around to find things to do for Cub Scouts. Every now and then, a pack meeting should be just absolutely awesome and over the top. The cost of your pack meetings, your activity campouts. When you do a campout, do parents pay for the camp out and the food each time, or are so many campouts already included in your budget, right? And so it's those types of things that you want to work through and talk about. What's the ideal? And then the cost of your special events, your Pinewood Derby, your Blue and Gold, all those things, and any other type of expense that may have come up through that great brainstorming session. Just remember in that step 1, don't limit yourself, right? This is not the part where you start limiting yourself. And neither is step 2. Absolutely pie in the sky. This is absolutely off the chart kind of stuff. So you plan 1, step 1 and 2. Don't limit yourselves, right? Just be out there that, yes, this is what we want to do.
So yeah, we go through the step one and we say, what do we want the program to look like? And then we say, okay, so what is this program that we've just created or imagined? What does it cost? I love that. So don't limit yourself.
Absolutely.
Gwen has good input too. We're only on step 2 of 4, but she's saying this is all part of leader continuity planning. Keep records of this year for the next year. Make sure your successor has a chance at success. Great
Absolutely.
point for lots of reasons.
Yes. Yes, you do want to you do want to keep good records of this as far as what did we plan, and then our a simple task is just to take your pack calendar from last year and go month by month and say what did we do each month as a pack? How many den meetings did we have? What were the den meetings like? And what did we like? And things like this show. And going on Facebook, going to roundtable, meeting with other packs, and you hear about these other great activities that other packs have done, right? And the question is, well, how do you guys afford all that, right? How did you sleep overnight on a battleship, or how did you go to the state park, or how did you go fund the the trip to the zoo, or wherever it might be? That's the inspirational part, and that's really critical when we get to step 4. But we're not there yet.
Yeah, there's such a rich resource in just the comment section on the video where you're watching right now. When you want to say, how'd you afford it? How'd you, we're going to get into it, but I'm also going to say there's so many great ideas and there's just such a resource here on social media. So 2 cheers for social media for me, and especially on these channels while we're watching these videos where you are right now. It's a safe place. We see it all the time. So hello, Pack 916. Thanks for tuning in. And thanks everybody for your comments and questions. We're going to address a lot of these, I think, as we go. But we got to get to step 3. I don't know. I'm not even trying to say this is where we start limiting ourselves, but this is where we start kind of looking at what, how do we make it happen, right, Anthony?
It is. And step 3 is now saying, okay, what we start listing our income. What are our sources of income, or what are our potential sources of income? And keep in mind that stream of income needs to match when your expenses are going to be, right? So if you're going to have a pack camp out that you're going to pay for everyone to come, or a pack a barbecue, let's just say you're going to have a picnic in let's just say August, right? Well, when is that money for the fundraiser going to come in to pay for that event in August, right? So you want to make sure that you're lining up your income to be ahead of your expenses, right? So you're not upside down, or someone's not paying out of pocket and then waiting to be reimbursed or anything like that. You also want to be familiar. There is a thing called the unit money earning application. And the most useful part of this application is the back of it. And the back of it explains the rules for fundraising and scouting. And these are just the highlights. These aren't all of them, but these are the most common ones people don't know or need to know about. One is, if you're doing a unit fundraiser that's not sponsored by the council, in other words, your typical council product sales or popcorn and camp cards, you may not wear the BSA uniform if you're doing like a local car wash or some other type of fundraisers that's just for your unit. Then gambling or no games of chance, right? Most people can understand that one. So no raffles and those types of things. And then no direct solicitations, right? You can't just go out to the general public and ask for direct funds. There has to be an exchange of services or goods for your unit fundraiser. That's kind of why popcorn and camp cards and council-sponsored fundraisers are really beneficial. And I know people were expecting us to just lean into that. And I said, look, that's not the only source of income. I will share with you that there is several units that I know of that do these type of activities. One is in a council I served in. They did a spaghetti dinner. And it was a community event. Like everyone in that community, it's a small town, but everyone in that community knew when that spaghetti dinner night was. They had a drive-through. They had a eat-in. They're raising like $10,000 through a spaghetti dinner. How do they do it? I have no idea. I mean, other than like they've been doing it forever and just everyone knows how they're doing it.
Secret sauce?
Yeah, right. They leaned into it. They believed that was the best fundraiser for them. And that has a lot to do with the last time when we talk about that. But they really believed that was it. So it was really hard to convince them that, oh, you also need to sell popcorn or you need to sell camp cards. Well, it's hard because, well, they didn't need the revenue, right? They already had the revenue. So I just share that if you don't have a revenue source, right, or the ones that you are doing, you're having to do a lot of them, a lot of small ones that aren't doing really well. Trying to pick one that's a real big focus. And when we talk about the last step, and I know we keep on leaning on to this, but you'll see that how important that is to kind of lean into that one, and where most fundraisers fail when it comes to parents. And then you want to talk about PAC dues and versus fundraisers. So a method that I've seen work very well is that when you build your budget, the only income source is going to be PAC dues. So essentially, you take in all your expenses for the year, and you divide that by the number of kids that are in the PAC. And that's the PAC dues. And that number, forewarned, right, $200, $300, right? If you're doing an awesome program, it might be $400, might be $500, right? If you're going to pay for everything, right, it's going to add up. And so the only revenue that you may have is dues. Well, you may then say, okay, how much product sales do we have to do per person for them to not have to pay dues? And this kind of comes into our last step when we talk about communication. And so before that, I think that's the key step for number 3, which is just making sure that you list those expenses, you find your revenue sources, and there's a big benefit to working with your council to do council fundraising, council product sales, because no matter what product sale you go into, even if you don't use the council and you kind of go off on your own, you're not going to get a higher commission. Just to let you know, I've kind of researched all this, right? Generally speaking, a council product sale, the great thing about that is the revenue that the council comes off of that goes indirectly back to your unit in several ways. How councils do that, it's not, dollar for dollar goes here. They don't budget that way. But overall, it helps supplement the cost of keeping your camp open, having a district executive to lean into, having someone as simple as someone at the office picks up the phone when you call, right? Having a scout shop, having a location for your scout shop. All these things are indirect benefits that the unit receives when you're conducting a council-sponsored fundraising activities, product sales, such as could be popcorn, beef jerky. There's lots of things out there. There's Christmas trees. There's camp cards. All those things. Yes, the council does get a piece of that, but remember, the council is there to serve you as a unit and provide services to you and your unit. So that income indirectly benefits you as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. They're providing the resources that make those kinds of fundraisers more successful. Steve has a question. I know we've really hyped up step 4, which I'm actually super excited to talk through. But Steve has a question before we go there. And I know we kind of talked about this at the top of the show, but he says, when's the recommended time to do budget planning as part of annual program planning meeting or a separate exercise?
So I think the annual program planning is kind of, it's part of step 1 of your budget planning, right? So it's not formal that you're not conducting the annual program planning party for your budget. You're doing it so that you can deliver the program. Ultimately, all this is so that you can deliver the best and most fun, simple, and easy program that you possibly can. And so the program planning conference is that step 1. And I say June, July, right? Wherever works best for your families, based on your school cycle too, right? Maybe it is earlier or May or sometime. Your PAC treasurer, I would say about the May timeframe, they should be wrapping up and be able to present how much did it cost to run the PAC last year, right? And where did you spend your money? I wouldn't make that part of the annual PAC program conference. I would just make that as something that you have in your back pocket to have that data available. And then after the PAC program planning conference, you can then now associate those expenses with those wishes and dreams that you have for an awesome PAC program.
Makes sense. Okay, I don't want to delay. We got to talk about step 4.
Step 4. Okay, so if there is a magic step, this is the magic step. And it is absolutely crucial. And this is where I'm shocked at times when I talk about PAC finances, and I learned that PACs they're like, we don't want parents to know about the budget. We don't want them to know, we don't want to, they feel like it's going to cause so many headaches and issues and concerns that they just want to kind of keep it secret. And kind of, when you start doing that, I guarantee you your product sales are bad. I guarantee your fundraisers are bad. And I guarantee your PAC finances are struggling. All right. And there's a reason why. So here's some really key elements to remember and why it's so important is that once you have a PAC budget, that you openly share and let people know, communicate what that budget is. So openly share the items the PAC plans to pay for only if the income is raised, right? So in other words, just because you put on the budget doesn't mean that that's going to happen, right? So that's the key element of communicating is that we plan on doing these things expense-wise, but that's only if we do these things on the income side too. Oh, okay. So you do have to make that connection with parents. You do have to make that connectivity between the expenses that we're budgeting aren't going to come to reality if no one does any fundraising or no one pays their dues or whatever it might be. The other key elements, so steps 1 through 3, when parents are involved in the budget planning process, and I don't mean that you have to have, that you have to be a CPA, that you have to know the difference between debits and credits. They're somehow involved in the process of knowing that, oh, we're planning an awesome program here. For example, the PAC is planning on paying for everyone to go to a fall camp out. Food, costs, everything. That the PAC is going to cover that cost only if we do this fundraiser, right? Oh, now I know why I'm paying dues or why you're asking me to raise money. So when parents know where the money's going, they're more likely to fundraise and pay dues as well. When you show them behind the scenes that, hey, look, these adventure loops that we give out at every PAC meeting, they're not free, right? The PAC activities, the Pinewood Derby, all these other things that we're doing, they're not free, right? And so you do have to show them, and if they're involved in the process, you really don't have to show them because they are experiencing it. But for those who don't participate, you do have to really make that connection for them to show them this is where your dues go, or if you don't want to pay dues, this is where fundraising goes. And if you fundraise and sell $1,000 worth of popcorn, your whole program year is paid for, including your registration fee, right? Oh, and if I don't sell $1,000, well, wherever you do sell, right, that we're going to take that commission and we're going to apply it towards. So you may end up only having to pay $20, right, for the whole program year, right? So having that slide scale is important too. But when parents know where the money's going, how they are benefiting from it, they're going to get behind it. If their perception is that your PAC is sitting on $5,000 and that you don't need the money, and that the PAC doesn't spend money on anything because you're not funding your den meetings, right? The den leader is complaining to them every week that, well, we couldn't do the supplies because I didn't have the money this month, or they're collecting from their parents every week $5 so that they can do the next activity, right? That's a disconnect. And then parents are like, well, why do you need me to fundraise? Because you're asking me for money every week. So those are really important things that are often overlooked. And that's why I think step 4 is so critical, that you communicate and share that budget, but the financial plan of the PAC. And then when parents see that direct benefit of this, of paying dues or the fundraising, they're more likely to pay and or to fundraise, right? So again, building that connection. Now, you're going to have some parents, right? Remember, no plan are you going to be able to get 100% of the people to agree to. I never had that in my PAC. I don't know of a PAC that does, but you have to have consensus, right? And so when you have that critical mass of people that do get it, they understand it, they can explain it to those who may not be on board with it, but that's the best decision that the PAC made at the time. Then each year you just kind of navigate that, right? You talk about, okay, well, did that work last year? And do we want to continue to do that? Is there something that is happening in the economy that is preventing you from being have as much income as you did last year? Those types of things are taken consideration. But when you have that on the front end, you prevent so many issues for the rest of the program year. Because now when your new families are joining, they know there's a plan And that's who you explain that to, right? So don't wait for your new families to join and have them be part of this planning process. I only say that because they don't know what they don't know, right? So to put them in that position is kind of unfair and probably not a great formula for success. You have to have all this stuff done kind of in the summer time frame when you're planning. So when new families are joining, you're saying, hey, by the way, our dues are $150, but here you go. Here's the great part. You'll never have to pay those dues if you sell X amount of, if you participate in our 2 fundraisers, right? If you do this or you do this as a fundraiser, we'll cover your costs, right? The other piece of information that's really important that I see a lot of people talk about as well, what do we do if someone goes above and beyond and raises more than someone else, right? Or above the average or above what was minimally required? What happens with that money? Well, that's up to you. But talk about that before it happens, right? That's the only piece that I ever see people get in arguments about because it wasn't clear on the front end. So I always describe this experience that I had with my kids. We loved playing Marco Polo in our pool, and my daughter had this really unique ability to change the rules in the middle of the game so that she would win, right? So people won't get mad if you explain the rules to them on the front end and you stick to them till the end of the game. If you need to change the rules at the next cycle of the game, right? But not in the middle of the game. When you start changing the rules in the middle of the game, that's when you're going to get a lot of upset parents. And especially when it comes to money and finances, people will get really upset about that. So having those conversations on the front end, what do you do with excess? What are we going to do with that? Because you want to keep in mind, to be, I believe, ethical, whatever money you raise in that program year should be spent that program year, right? Because those kids who raise that money, if it was through fundraising and through dues, they should be the direct recipients and beneficiaries of that, not building a war chest so that, for whatever reason. And I'll end on this, and I know I'm going a little long, is that this is also the time to talk about when we talk about other expenses. Maybe there's another goal that you may have. Maybe there's a storage unit that the PAC is looking to either rent, or a storage shed that they're going to buy, or a major project that they're going to do, or they want to buy camping materials, or simple stuff like folding tables so that we have our own tables for our meetings or for our campouts and those types of things. Banners for the PAC for recruitment seasons. All those types of things are those nice little extra add-ons that you can say, hey, we're going to do a fundraiser that's specifically just for this. And it's separate, so it doesn't hurt you in your operations of the PAC throughout the year.
Yeah, so this was eye-opening, and I really like the idea of being super transparent with your budget. I don't really know why you wouldn't be. I'm sure there are folks who are like, well, then the parents get nitpicky about what we're doing, and it seems like, to your point, well, you can even be transparent about that. We set the expectations. We're following this around, through to the next year. We welcome your input at the next, when we're making our PAC budget next year, and you're always welcome to volunteer as well.
Right. And, and it's also setting that expectation and letting people know that, look, if there's a consensus, yes, we'll make change, right? But if it's just one vocal person and everyone else is like, they're not buying into it, you don't need to change because that one person, right?
It's not fair. Yeah.
Right. It's not, that's not a great way to operate. So just, again, if you tell them the rules before you start playing the game, right, it will go much smoother than having that experience right on the go and then kind of being caught flat-footed.
Rob is tracking. He says it's very important at the fall join nights to show new families a calendar of events and a budget. I like that.
Yeah, Rob, and we love Rob because Rob is an avid viewer and contributor, and he always has great things and great comments to say. So thanks, Rob.
Yep, definitely. Thank you, Rob. Jesse says budgets are essential. Yes. Anthony, these folks watching, if they want to get further into this, if they want more resources on PAC annual program budgets and all that, I know you've got something for them.
I do. And the great thing is that what we just covered is actually in the real literature, right? So it is that simple. I'm not, there isn't a 12-step program. And I just broke it down to 4 things. So the first thing, if you get your phones out and scan that QR code, it's going to take you to planning your PAC's annual budget, program budget. And so you'll see right there, you can all see on the screen, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 major steps now. And we break that down into some specifics about the cost of certain things and what those are. And so each of those steps have those items in more detail. And so that is available on scouting.org. That's where that QR code is taking you. If you want to get there through the website, you go to scouting.org, go to the Cub Scout page, go to leaders, and it's under PAC resources, PAC committee resources. And then the next piece is I'm an Excel sheet kind of guy. I know lots of people are, especially people who like to crunch numbers. And we've done all the work for you. So you don't have to go out and create your own PAC budget worksheet in an Excel sheet. We've already got that for you with all the numbers that we can put in are already in there, such as even the updated registration fees, right? So we have all that data has been updated and is current. So you scan that QR code. It'll take you directly to an Excel sheet. You can just save that into your drive, and then you can play around with those numbers and make those adjustments. That also, is kind of the final wrap up of this whole thing, right? A budget is just a roadmap. It's not written in stone. And so every month during your parent meeting or your committee meeting, you should be reviewing your budget of where you're at. Are you on track? And if you're not, if your income is not going to meet your expenses, what are you not going to do? And so having that conversation ahead of time, like during your PAC program planning and your expenses, and prioritizing which of these expenses that you're absolutely going to do and which ones you can maybe do without is really helpful. So then if you do get in that situation, the decision's already been made, the discussion was already had, the debates are over, and you can just act.
Yes. Very awesome resource here. You've definitely taken all of the skill that I would not be able to put into a planning worksheet out there for us. If you're listening to the audio version of today's show via podcast, this is one episode. I'd encourage you to go to the Scouting Magazine Facebook, and the March 22nd episode of Cub Chat Live, Creating a PAC Budget, is where you're going to want to go. This video will be embedded there on the feed, and you can just fast forward to the end and scan these QR codes. You can also go to scoutingmagazine.org/CubChatLive for the exact same link, same video. March 22nd.
And all these resources are on scouting.org, right? They just go to the Cub Scout homepage, go under leader resources, and all this is under PAC committee resources.
Steve echoes, he appreciates the worksheet. He was just thinking about how he'd need to create one himself. Yeah, Steve.
There you go. See, we already did it. Fun, simple, and easy. That's our mantra. So as many times, one thing that reminds me of our Cub Scouting chair, Audrey Oaks, says, we don't need to create more resources for our leaders. We just need to connect them to the ones we already have, because we have so many resources already planned out. Just create awareness.
That is so true in so many things in scouting. We have really great resources. We've just got to make sure everybody knows where to find them. Thanks to your team for making that easier and easier all the time, Anthony. This has been a really fun episode. I think next Friday we are going to do a best of show for Easter, if I recall, and then we'll be back live in the next week. We have tons of good past episodes if you are searching for any topic next week.
Yeah, and I think in 2 weeks we're doing the next program updates, and I think I'm on for that show. We're going to talk about the much anticipated and much discussed DEM meeting resources. So we've talked about the program updates a lot, but the question is, what resources are we going to have as leaders to deliver this stuff? We're going to talk about that. So we're excited to share what we have.
So cool. Anthony, thanks again for today. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned to these pages. We're giving you all the information when we get it. And I'm super pumped to be watching. You'll be stuck with Aaron in 2 weeks, Anthony, but I'll be watching. So,
all right.
Everybody, until then, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to catch next week's episode. Same time, same place. And let us know how we're doing at go.scoutingmagazine.org/ratecubchat. We love feedback and ideas for new episodes. And you can visit blog.scoutingmagazine.org/CubChatLive for all our past video episodes. You can see us live. Except it's recorded, but it was live. Okay, see you next week.